I joined Toastmasters in 2011 along with my sister Kay. I joined for fun, and she joined because she was terrified of public speaking. And a year into our Toastmasters journey, they announced at my club, Two Oceans Toastmasters, that they were having a club contest. So we both signed up. I signed up somewhat cockily and arrogantly, like, I've got this, this will be easy. And she signed up with a fair amount of trepidation. And I was a little bit bemused to watch her in the 2 weeks leading up to the contest, rehearsing and revising and reading her manuals. And I was like, what a nerd. I've got this. I know how to speak. And come to the night of the contest, the last thing I was expecting to hear was, and in second place, Verity Price. I was horrified. My sister had done 6 speeches in her life at Toastmasters, and there she stood with the first place certificate. I was then mortified to discover that I hadn't actually just entered a little contest at my club. What we had entered was the Toastmasters Prepared Speaking Contest that starts with 30,000 people around the world and goes through a 6-month journey to end up with 10 people on the final stage of the World Championship of Public Speaking. And I had not taken it seriously. Oh my word. So being a newest Toastmaster, I very quickly realized there was a lot about, my phone's talking to me. There was a lot about the organization I didn't understand and how it worked. And I suddenly discovered that my little club belonged to a thing called an area, which was made up of 3 other neighboring clubs. Our area then, along with 3 other areas, made up something called a division, which happened to be at that point the Western Cape and Namibia. Don't ask me how, but that's how it worked. And then our division, along with 9 other divisions, made up Toastmasters Southern Africa, known as District 74. We were one of 90 districts that make up Toastmasters International, and everyone was trying to get to the world finals of public speaking. So 2 weeks after my humiliation, I found myself at the back of Tokai Library, watching my sister at the area contest, convinced that they are going to realize that she shouldn't be there. And so I had to hear again that she'd won, and slap a smile on my face and clap. So yes, no, my sister's amazing. I know. And in that moment, this little seed of jealousy started to burrow its way into my heart. I couldn't figure out how she was doing so well. And a few weeks later, I sat again at the back of the division contest at the Elfin Hall in Constantia, and I actually willed my sister to lose. This was not my finest moment, nor was it very judicious of me. And let me tell you something. If you go on a contest journey, either as a contestant or as a participant, just watching people develop, by the time you get to the division level of a contest, these people have worked on one speech 3 times already. So I was blown away at the jump in quality. The speeches were entertaining, they were engaging, they were humorous, they were enlightening, inspiring, and every single speaker was poised, they were professional, they were polished. But again, I heard those fateful words, and the winner is Kay Price Lindsay. And another tight smile and a little bit of clapping as I watched my sister go on to be the first member of our club in its 20-year history to win a division contest. By this stage, I was noticeably green with envy, and my jealousy was starting to make me sick. With every mounting success of Kay's, I had a mounting distress of my own. We've got a 12-year age gap, so we'd never competed against each other in our lives, and now my older sister was putting me to shame. She wasn't blind, she saw something was up, and one day I get this phone call saying, "V, I'm worried about you. You haven't seen yourself recently, and can I have you around? Why don't you come around? I'm going to make you a cup of tea. I'm going to give you a foot rub." I promise you, I could have imploded with shame. I knew that I had to actually tell her what had been going on. And I drove to her house shaking, and I sat in her garden with my voice trembling, and I said, "Kay, I have been resenting you every step of the way. I've been willing you to lose. And when I finished speaking, I kind of looked up at her, not knowing what to expect. And all I saw was love. She said, V, I had no idea this was so hard for you. I love you. Thank you for sharing that with me. She's a pretty amazing sister and an amazing woman and an incredible speaker. And in that moment, I opened my eyes and I could see the talent that she had. I could see the tenacity she was bringing. I could see how she was facing her fears. And most importantly, unlike me, she was using everything that Toastmasters had to offer and was building her speaking repertoire and polishing her speech and not just kind of riding on the coattails of natural talent. And so I stepped up and I became one of her mentors. And we had a month to get her ready for the district contest, which was held in Durban. I couldn't go with her, so I sat at home waiting, and it wasn't online, so we couldn't watch. But I got the phone call. I won! For the first time, I was happy. I was over the moon. And the best part was she was the third woman in the history of Southern African Toastmasters to win. And now started a 3-month roller coaster to get her ready to go to Orlando, Florida, to join the 90 people that had started at 30,000. She was now down to the final 90. And we took her to every club we could. She rehearsed. She worked on her speech. She tweaked it. She worked on the body language. She looked for more powerful language to get things across. She looked for the humor moments. But she didn't just work on that speech. She also had to work on a second speech, because if you win your semi-final, you've got 2 days before you get onto the final stage, and you have to give a brand new speech. And so she was preparing 2 speeches neck and neck. We saw her off to Orlando. Luckily, this part of the contest was streamed. The entire club met at my little house, and we had it up on a projector on the wall. And we watched as she shone bright. It's a little speech called Snap, Crackle, Pop, and I'll put the link in the chat later for you to watch it. She was amazing. So amazing, in fact, that the judges had to count the ballads 3 times. The results were so close. And when the result came, for the first time in 6 months, we heard, and in second place, K. Price Lindsay. She'd been pipped to the post by a preppy young American called Ryan Avery, who 2 days later went on to be crowned the world champion of public speaking. So we can only imagine if Kay had been in another semi-final, she might have met him on the final stage. And there's a very good chance that her second speech, Never Too Late, about our mother's incredible turnaround from alcoholism in her 70s, might have got her the title. We'll never know. So I'm claiming that because it was an extraordinary speech. But she came joint 10th in the world. It was a life-changing journey for her. It was a life-changing journey for me. She really stepped into mentoring countless speakers to become the best they could be when it came to going on these contests. She helped me come second in the district for humorous speaking a few months later. And together we've worked with all the district winners since then to get them ready and to learn from what she learned about what it takes to get to the semi-finals. It's a life-changing journey. It's unexpected. It might make you come across jealous streaks you didn't know, or it might help you discover how to really master giving a presentation and giving a speech to remember. So in March this year, on the 1st, Toasted will be hosting our club contest, which is the opportunity for anyone who's got a level 2 pathways, they finished level 2, they can take part. And there's many reasons to take part. Number one, it's fun to stretch yourself. It's fun to try and work on a speech slightly differently and put a little bit of pressure on yourself. 2, it's great to learn. It's great to stretch yourself and step out of your comfort zone, because we've been lucky enough as a club to have a member win the district contest for evaluations and a member to win the division contest for impromptu. So it's just a matter of time before someone wins the district for prepared speaking, just saying. So I want to share with you a little bit of what the winning speeches seem to have in common, because prepared speaking is an art. It's about polishing a speech, and it can be, sometimes they can look over prepared, so you've got to learn to make it feel natural, but there's a few things that they seem to have in common. The first is they all share a personal story. It's either one personal story that they take you through and they unpack simple life lessons in it that the audience can relate to, or they have a series of 2 or 3 simple stories that unpack one single message. They all grab the audience's attention, whether it's with a prop when they start their talk, whether it's with incredible body language that grabs attention. They make sure they get your attention. One of the winners, Darren LeCraft, a few years ago, actually fell as he walked on stage. And he lay there with the whole audience going, oh, and then he looked at the audience and he said, have you ever taken too long to get back up? Bam, he had them. And then he took them through his personal story of getting back up. They use simple language. They keep it simple. They make it easy to follow. They do brilliant plays on words. But what's important in every single speech you ever watch is they keep it simple and they stick to time. If you go over 7 minutes, 30 seconds, you will be disqualified. So as a rule of thumb, the winning speeches have a speaking rate of between 110 to 125 words a minute. That's not very fast, but that means you can use pauses. You can let the audience laugh. And you've really worked on every single sentence. There's not a word in that speech that doesn't need to be there. So this is a journey with a mentor. You don't write these winning speeches by yourself. You get people to give you feedback. You work on it, you tweak it, you see what made people laugh, because all of them make people laugh. Even if they're speaking on a serious topic, the winning speeches keep their audience engaged. They ask their audiences questions. Sometimes they get them to raise their hands like Nick did with us earlier. Other times they just ask that question of like, have you ever felt like that? Because that keeps their audience engaged. So there's a pattern that seems to run through these speeches. And my sister and I, when we joined a club contest, we had no idea about that. But as she got taken on the journey of this prepared speaking contest, she learned how you master a presentation, how you speak to be remembered. And it's a life-changing journey. It certainly made me realize things about myself I probably didn't want to know, but it also brought my sister and I a lot closer together. And it forced me to up my game as a speaker, to realize there was a lot the Toastmasters had to teach me, and that maybe I should leave my arrogance at the door and walk into situations with a little bit more humility and a little bit more openness to seeing what other people could teach me. So I would encourage anyone in our club who has finished their level 2 on pathways, or who has done more than 6 speeches of the old Toastmasters journey, to join in the contest in March. At the club level, it's fun. We're all here to learn and grow, but you'll probably put a bit more effort into that speech now that you've heard where it might take you. And maybe we've got a world champion in our midst. I really hope we do. And if you beat me in the contest, I promise I'll actually be in the front row cheering you on, because I've got the jealous streak under control. Thank you. Okay. Oh, Nick, you are the best. So we are now going to actually watch a championship speech. This was the winner of the 2014 World Championships. It's one of my favorite talks. I think it brings together everything that I've touched on. You should be able to see in this speech. So really take note of what he does and how he gets his message across, how he uses story to do that, how he characterizes conversations to bring more drama and more tension and more enthusiasm and humor to the presentation. So really take all of that in, and then once we've watched it, we'll open up the floor for questions, for comments, how you felt about it, what you think worked, what didn't work. Let's see what we think about this. Nick, I'll put it over to you to play. Thanks so much.
Dhananjaya Hediarachi, I see something. I see something. Dhananjaya Hediarachi.
You and I are not very different from this flower, just like this flower is unique. You are unique. All of us has something special that makes us as beautiful. Do you know what makes you special? Now, the answer to that can be a little difficult to find, because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult to feel special. Mr. Contest Chair, my fellow flowers, I can remember the first time I broke. I was 17 years old. I had already flunked high school and managed to get myself arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get mama. I can hear her scream outside the police station. Even the cops were afraid. She came up to me, held the iron bars, looked into my eyes, and I saw a tear coming down her face. Now, I've seen my mama cry before, but mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, "Son, I want you to be a better man." That night, when I drove home, my dad was waiting for me at home. Now, my dad is a cool dad. Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Put them all together, you get my dad. My dad came up to me and said, "Son, it's okay. You flunked your exams. You already got arrested. That's fine. You get that from your mother's side. I want you to start working immediately." And I said, "Okay." So my dad took me to meet one of his friends called Sam. Now, Sam was an accountant who had an accounting firm and had generously decided to make me his personal assistant. And there he was. He looked like a teddy bear. But this man was special. I looked at him and he looked at me. And then he said the most amazing thing. He said, "Son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you decide to work with me, I can help you find that something." And I was like, "Whoa, that's the first time in my whole life somebody has ever told they see something in me." And I started working for Sam. And every day after work, he used to tell me stories about the world, about history, about culture, about philosophy. And it was much more interesting than what I learned in school. And I discovered I can dream. And I started dreaming, ladies and gentlemen. After 1 year, I went back into high school, completed my exams, and went into college. After successfully completing college, I found a great girl, but not a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Have you ever had that problem? And when you're lost, it's difficult to feel special. So I went back to my cool dad. And I said, "Dad, I feel lost." He said, "You are like your mother." So my dad introduced me to this strange club that had a strange name, with strange people talking. On the first meeting, they told me to do something called a table topic. I aced it. But while I was speaking, I see a strange man seated in the back row. Humble, simple. The unfailing quality of kindness in his eyes. As soon as I finished, he walked up to me, looked me dead straight in the eye, and said, "Son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you come here twice a month, maybe we can find that something." And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered I could speak, and I love speaking. And that led me to become a teacher. I know what it's like to not have enough money in your bank account. I know what it's like to worry when the bills start coming in. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up my beautiful wife and I ask her, "Honey, why did you marry me?" She says, "I saw something in you. But I still don't know what it is." Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm a dreamer, I'm a speaker, and I learned the unfailing quality of unconditional love from my wife. I was broken, and I've been broken, lost, and broke many times in my life. But the people in my life were able to reach into the trash can and make me whole again. If it was up to me, I would have never been able to do that. And this is why, if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can piece you back together. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at you, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. Over to you.
It's such a lovely little speech. They say that when people win this contest, before they've left the international conference, they've got over $1 million worth of speaking bookings. So it's quite an event to win. It's huge internationally, the recognition. So I'd love to hear if there's any questions or comments having seen that. You can unmute or pop it in the chat box. Just having watched that or just wanting to understand a bit more about contest. Yes, Gabrielle?
I just have, without further thinking, one thing to say. Will we ever get there? How? How many years has he been with Toastmasters before he won that contest? Do you know? And the other thing is, there's something about these guys there in America with the expressions they have, the language. There is such a strength there of bringing the message over. I think his accent as well. I hope we get there. Maybe take some acting lessons. But yeah, I only had to make a comment. And
no, but I think it's a good comment to make, Gabrielle. And that's why it's important when I share Kay's journey, because she'd only done 6 speeches and she made it to the top 90 and came joint 10th in the world. So she showed me that if you open the manuals, you learn about body language, you learn about how to use vocal variety, you practice working with a prop, you can build these skills, because she was not a confident speaker. He is a speaker. He's a teacher, he's a lecturer. So there's a lot of the guys that do make it to the finals that this is what they do. So obviously it makes a difference. But Lance Miller, who spoke at the club last year, who was the world champion in 2005, it took him 13 years of contests to win the world finals. He lost for 9 years at his club. Like me, I only ever tried once or twice, but he never made it out of club, and he kept coming back and he kept getting better. So it is a journey. And as I said, all these guys work with mentors. Not one of them gets to that final stage without help.
And Verity, sorry to put another thing in. Can we perhaps see Kay's, is there a video about Kay's speech so that we could see that as well? Because yes, it made us, our mind mouth watering. You know, it's really, I would really like to see that. It would be nice because
I know.
Could we do that perhaps one evening?
Yeah. So, yeah, we can. I can also put the link. I'm putting the link for the talk we just watched in here, and then I will. I'm just getting Kay's one, and I'll put it in as well. It was a really fun speech. It was about losing her mind in the middle of Victoria Station in London. It's a very entertaining speech, and she did incredibly well. I'm going to pop it in for you now. Any other questions or comments?
So Verity, I have a comment, and I think what stood out for me quite clearly was the power of repetition, because he repeats a lot of the and of course the humor, which I think has definitely got a powerful place there. But the repetition of the comments about his mother, and I think it was brilliant. It makes you feel that it wasn't complicated. He kept it really simple. There's nothing complicated about it. He didn't use words that were sort of out of the thesaurus. It was so relatable, and I loved how he repeated the main points there. So yeah, that's my comment. And I think maybe going forward, we could actually have a video once every session. There's a lot of value in it for us to see examples of it. It will be a nice added value to our event.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that, Michelle. It's very important to watch these, because it's important to remember these are prepared speeches. They're not keynotes, so they are way more performed than a normal keynote would be. But if you were doing a longer speech and you could do 7 minutes in the middle like that got your audience going, it's going to add huge value to your speaking, and people will remember what you've said. But you've touched on some key things there. Repetition is an incredibly powerful tool. It's like the chorus of a song. The great speeches always come back to that little hook. They build on the humor of, raise your hand if you've got a mother that gives you, a cool dad. Put them all together, and he keeps coming back to that and building that humor. And then I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. So it's finding a simple experience that you've had and turning that into a speech that's valuable for the audience. And that's the gift of the speech contest, is you can look at your own life and say, I had that experience. What's the universal message that other people can take away and learn from and work with? And Kay, when she was getting ready for the semi-final, someone said to her, Kay, you've got 7 minutes to speak to the world. What do you want them to know? And sadly, that was her final speech, was that message. So one day we'll get it to the final stage for her, because it was a beautiful speech. But it really is an opportunity to hone your speech writing and short sentences. The other bit of advice she got from an ex-world champion was, you need to speak to an 8-year-old. An 8-year-old needs to be understand your speech. If it's too complicated, you've lost your audience. So it really makes a difference. I know we're running out of time. Are there any other questions or thoughts before we hand back? Yes, Paul.
Abigail, Anya.
Okay,
Yeah.
Can I speak?
Hi, yes.
Well, it's Paul speaking.
Okay.
I just want to comment something on Gabrielle. I think what is important is the person that you become, that whole Toastmaster, more than winning a contest. I think what I see in those 6 months or a year that you were Toastmaster, you improved a lot, and well, much more than I do, because it's about training, it's about putting your effort, and the more effort you put in, the more you will become. But you can look at the world star. It's not important. It's your own star that you have to look into your heart, the one that you want to become. And not everybody can win a world contest. I mean, it's not for everybody, but I think it's important, the journey, the person that you're becoming by doing this. That was just my comment.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Paul. I love that. So true. Abigail?
Oh, yeah. I just want to comment on the speech. What was amazing for me was the pace. He wasn't rushing. It was, he wanted you to digest the information and to process it. And that is something that I admire today about Nick's speech as well. Not in a rush, you get the chance to eat up the words and flow, of which most speakers, including myself, struggle with wanting to put so much information in so little time. And then in the end, you speak so fast because you don't want to be over, and we have this big message that you want to come up, that you want to pass to the audience, but then you realize that you don't have to, you just have to take part of the message and just break it down and slow down and let people just go clop, 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 you know. So it was amazing. That's what I really, really liked about the speech. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Abigail. And to build on that, that's why your word count when you write a speech is so important. So for a normal club meeting, you can work on maybe 150 words a minute. And so type up your speech, look at that, divide it by 7 minutes, go, oh, look, I'm on 165, I'm going to be rushing. But when you get to a contest, it's putting in the pauses, it's adding in that body language, holding it, giving that naughty wink to the audience. That you need time for that. And that's why great speech writing is actually great speech editing. You never deliver the speech you write first off. You write it and then you strip away, you strip away, you strip away, because it's only through the editing that you find those magic moments where you can repeat and pause and have fun. And that's why doing a contest is going to stretch you way more than just doing one speech at tonight's meeting and then 3 weeks later doing a new topic. This forces you to take one speech and improve it. And we don't get to do that normally. So that's why I always recommend trying to do the contest journey and seeing where it takes you. Awesome. Thank you so much. So lovely to share this with all of you, and excited to see where our club goes and how we grow when it comes to the contest part of Toastmasters. But it's my pleasure to hand back to Gabrielle to keep the program on track. Thanks, Gabrielle.